And welcome into the Central Postgame show here on STL Sports Central. Chris Pelican and Joe Roderick with you for the next however long it takes to break down the latest and greatest Cardinals victory. 5-1 win over your Oakland, Sacramento, soon-to-be Las Vegas Athletics. Pulls them to within one game of 500, Joe. Do you believe?
No, I've tapped out. I've told you that. And I apologize. I see the chat getting super antsy already, ready to talk this one over. That's on me for the delayed start time.
I'm throwing you under the bus, buddy.
They're getting antsy in there. So I wanted to apologize to them for wanting to see the show. And no, as Leo pointed out here, Chris, you and I haven't done a show in a while now. I said this after the Yankees series. I'm tapped out. I'm done. I'm not letting this team suck me back in and believe that they have a chance at a wild card. I'm not doing it. I refuse to let them fool me into thinking it.
To within 5.5 near games.
No, they could pull within to one game. I will sit there and I will wait for them to go on a 5-game losing streak. So I will not get sucked into this. The games have been fun. The last 2 nights have been fun wins.
Sure.
With how they've produced and the way they've gotten them, but I know that something else is coming.
Leo threw it back out there. I love what he's hypothetically.
No,
they sweep the Giants.
No, it's not.
Giants are a team in a free fall as well. It's not unlikely. You know what? Hey, I mean, again, what are you going to do? You're right. I mean, the last 2 nights have been nice games. I mean, well played games, timely hitting. The pitching has been way more good than bad. Again, this is what you guess would have liked to have seen more of this year. And, Matthew Liberatore with a really nice start tonight, goes 5 1/3. We were probably one of the last times you and I did a show together. I remember sitting there saying, I feel really comfortable about a 2026 back end rotation, 3 through 5 of Matthew Liberatore, Andre Pallante, and Michael McGreevy. I mean, was it Meatloaf? 2 out of 3 ain't bad. At this point in time, I don't know what to say. Pallante has done everything he can to make me look more like a fool than I normally do on that statement. But, Liberatore was just really, really, really good tonight. The velocity didn't dip, like it has. I guess, he improves tonight to 7-11 on the year. The ERA is down around 4.15. I guess at this point in time of the year, and I'm right there with you, I'm not sucked back in. We aren't talking about this team's postseason destiny or anything along those lines, but on Matthew Liberatore, what have you learned about him? Where do you think Matthew Liberatore sits going into 26? And I know he's probably got 3 or 4 more starts, left to wrap this season up, but it's been a season with some really good highs, some really low lows. And then on top of that, maybe some questions about the durability, which truthfully was very much expected for a guy who has not thrown a large amount of innings in any one single season in his pro career. But your thoughts on Liberatore?
Before we get into that, I pulled up on Baseball Reference real quick. I think this is before tonight's win. They don't have tonight's win in here yet. But when they were 69-71, they had a 1% chance of making the playoffs. I imagine that goes up just a tick.
Does this Jim Carrey have to come in right now? So you're saying there's a chance?
No, I'm not. Absolutely not. With Liberatore, I mean, it's you know what? Like, he's going to keep piling on the innings. And the only way he's going to get better in his career is to be able to go deeper into seasons and be able to pitch more innings. And I think with him, and again, I think tonight we saw a very good case of that, and I think we've seen it every single start of his in the second half of the season, is that he's maxed out. Like, he is maxed out. They are not going to put him, he's not going to throw 100 pitches. He threw 81 pitches tonight. They are keeping him right about that 75-80 mark with the number of pitches he's throwing, because they realize, hey, every out he gets, every inning he gets is a new career high for Matthew Liberatore. And you're not going to get better by shutting a guy down. for the season. You're not going to get better by saying, hey, he reached, and I'd have to look at what the numbers are for him this year, exactly what he's at on the season right now. But he's not going to get better. As I pull him up here, innings pitched for Liberatore, he is at 131, add tonight, so he's at 135, 136 on the season. If you want Matthew Liberatore to get to be a 180 inning pitcher, you can't shut him down at 120, at 130. You can't. You have to say, hey, you know what? You're going to go out there and we're going to get you to 150, 160 this season. And then next year when you come back, hey, maybe into September you'll be better. So for him to go out there and be as good as he was tonight, no runs over 5 1/3, 81 pitches, that's I think the most impressive to me. He had 7 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings and threw 81 pitches. That's really, really effective.
Yeah.
When you get to that high of a strikeout number and that low of an innings amount.
And truthfully, against a lineup that a lot of people are getting really excited about with the Athletics, the Oakland, San Diego, or Sacramento, Las Vegas Athletics. I don't even know where they play, but again, a good young lineup who ended up scoring 1 run in the last couple of games in St. Louis. So, kudos to the pitching staff. This is the Card Central postgame show right here on STL Sports Central. All content on STL Sports Central is brought to you by DraftKings. And folks, as you are doing, jump into the YouTube chat. While you're in there, scroll down, hit that like and subscribe button. Do us a solid here at STL Sports Central. It makes a big difference for us. So if you like the content, let us know, and please jump into the conversation as well. So, again, you'd like to look at this one and say, hey, we can talk about Willson Contreras with maybe the most absurd 4 RBI game one will ever see. When people tell me that outfield defense doesn't matter at all, I will point them to this game. Because you have 2 guys who are not outfielders playing in the corners in Brett Rooker and Tyler Soderstrom, who both miss balls that you would expect a high school outfielder to catch. And that leads to 4 Willson Contreras RBIs in this one. So, again.
So let me ask you, because both of those, it wasn't until after the game, and I'm kind of going back and I'm watching the highlights of it, and it wasn't until you brought up the Sacramento A's. There's a lot of times that you will hear of a young outfielder getting called up late in the season and making his major league debut and having to fight with the lights in a big league ballpark or the third tier of a stadium in a big league ballpark. Right now, the A's
that's what happened tonight. It seems like with both of those plays, but you're right.
The A's right now, half their games are in a minor league ballpark. They are not getting that. And I don't watch enough athletics baseball. Apologies to Chris Carey on the call there. But I don't watch enough to know if this is an issue that they've run into in other away ballparks that, again, this is something you can't work on finding that ball in that third tier in spring training. You can't find it if your home games are in a minor league stadium all season long. And I wonder how much that plays into it.
Well, and let's be real. Brett Rooker is a first baseman, but when you've got, the next Babe Ruth at first base and Nick Kurtz, I mean, this is an accommodation that's made. You look at Tyler Soderstrom in left field. Tyler Soderstrom was drafted as a catcher. They realized he couldn't catch. They moved him to first base. And then here comes Nick Kurtz, and all of a sudden he's playing left field. The bats play for both those guys. That's why they're in the corner outfields. And I agree with you without any doubt. The lights had an impact in tonight's game, but so did the fact that you have 2 guys who are not high level outfielders. And again, at the end of the day, that was the difference in this game. No 2 ways about it. And so again, we're not gleaning a ton off of it. Willson Contreras had a great game in the box score. But the truth is that the second one was hit pretty hard. The first one was a bit of a looper that just sort of fell. So again, it's maybe one of the best box scores that Contreras will have on a night where he didn't hit the ball all that well, but who did hit the ball pretty well was Nolan Gorman. And, we talked about Liberatore for a second, and have we learned much about Matthew Liberatore for 2026? And, again, I still think we're seeing, throughout the course of the year, there's been too many good spots with Liberatore to be, to not take notice. I think he's a guy you can firmly pencil into the rotation next year, and truthfully could be a very good 3. Nolan Gorman, on the other hand, here we are with this guy. And if we're going to start talking about futures, he hits just the kind of home run that very few guys can hit. Fooled by a pitch out on his front foot and still knocks the ball over the right field fence. The power has always been tantalizing. The consistency is what's led me to give up on Nolan Gorman like you've given up on this season. But you know what you saw tonight too, which was a nice little thing? His defense was really strong tonight. It's not Nolan Arenado like at this point in time, but he makes a massive play in the 8th inning on a little dribbler by Darrell Hernandez down the third base line with 2 runners on, comes up with a huge throw. They get him by literally a shoestring. And, so I've always cautioned against taking too much out of games that literally mean nothing in the standings when literally all it is let's just play this string out. When people produce in those situations, I don't know that you can take a ton moving forward. But Nolan Gorman has been a nice surprise down the stretch. And, here we are, 20 plus games left in the season. And Joe Roderick, where are you with Nolan Gorman for 2026?
Love it. I've loved what I've seen the second half out of Nolan Gorman. The numbers aren't there where you'd want them to be. The offense is, he's had his bright spots. We still struggle, but I think you watch or you listen a few weeks ago, a month or two ago, and I think the whole organization was kind of down on Nolan Gorman when Arenado first went out and first started having those injury problems. And it just, you were putting Nolan Gorman there and it was just air after air after air. I mean, he went through a really, really rough stretch there defensively. All this talk, I know you ranted about it yesterday. I know we've talked about it in multiple shows today on STL Sports Central, how Brant Brown kind of called out Jordan Walker and made it seem like he's not showing up early for meetings. He's not putting in the work that you need to do to be a major league ball player. By all accounts, what we're seeing, at least defensively out of Nolan Gorman, he's putting in the work. He has gone out there and has done a really good job defensively. And if the coaches weren't in his ear, he heard it from the fans. He heard it from maybe the media that was saying, he's not going to be a Gold Glove, 10-time Gold Glove third baseman like Nolan Arenado, but some of those errors were preventable that he was, committing over there at third. So I think he has gone out and he has shown that he is going to take this seriously and get a lot better in really short amount of time.
Yeah, last night you mentioned a little bit of a rant on my part on runway. These guys getting continued opportunities without producing. And, Nolan Gorman, again, I'm at the point where it has looked nice. We're seeing what parts of what this team has always thought was there. I just don't know that I think this team can trust him with any significant role because he's had lots of at-bats and lots of time. And the inconsistency is just maddening. And when you're a team that does not have centerpieces in your lineup, the guys who are going to consistently be 500 slug guys or people along those lines. Like, when you don't have a core of your lineup and you need production everywhere, I'm at the point now with Nolan Gorman where I'm ready to cut bait because I just think he probably needs a change of scenery. The question that really needs to be asked about all these guys, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, any of them at this point in time is there any value in moving them at this point in time? Does the rest of the league see some of the measurables that are really enticing and the things that got them to lofty prospect status and, hey, they just need changes of scenery type stuff? Or, because at some point in time, it's not worth trading Nolan Gorman or Jordan Walker if no one is going to give you anything in return. The problem that I have though, is that, what we saw this whole year was unwarranted chances being given. And I just don't know how this team advances, in any sort of fashion, whether they're rebuilding, whether they're retooling, whether they're going for it. How do you move forward as a team when you continue to give chances to guys who proved that they don't do much when you have given them chances?
I agree right here with what Chewy just put in the comments, and this is exactly what I was going to say. Was you have to look at them case by case, and you have to look at it player by player with this. And I would say with Nolan Gorman, a lot of that has to do with where is Nolan Arenado at the start of the next season. If Nolan Arenado is gone from the Cardinals, then Nolan Gorman for the first time, gets an opportunity to be the guy at third base. You remember,
has he earned that, Joe? Like that is really opportunity. Like ever since Dylan Carlson cried to Derek Gould or whoever about his lack of opportunity, despite having 1,400 at bats or whatever it was, I've hated the word opportunity because I just don't think, this is the crux of my rant last night was that you have to earn your opportunities. And we just have a pile of guys in this on this team that have done very little to deserve additional opportunity. And they just kept giving it to Harrison Bader. They just kept giving it to Tyler O'Neill. They just kept giving it to Dylan Carlson. And it came at the detriment of the team. At some point in time, you just have to produce. And Nolan Gorman has had a lot of opportunity. So again, I feel like, as I said this earlier, you just cannot get lured in by what happens when literally nothing matters. When there is no expectation of winning, there is no expectation of getting to the postseason. I think it's super dangerous. So, I mean, I was with Ethan last night, and Ethan just basically sort of said, well, what do we want to do on this? What do you, and at the end of the day, I do think that the Cardinals unfortunately have decided that next year might be a throwaway year because of the lack of labor, piece heading into 27, and they might just be trying to reset for whatever the next collective bargaining agreement is. And I think that's a huge mistake because again, I don't believe this team has any interest in spending on free agents, but that doesn't mean you can't win. And that's totally fine. I just think we are at a point where these guys, the Gormans, the Walkers, the Lars Nootbaars, those guys have to be moved. And you have to get fresh faces in here. And you've got to be willing to take some chances. And if Jordan Walker turns out to be, the next George Foster, then you know what? Well, crap, we screwed it up. But you know what? It doesn't look like it's going to happen here. And with Gorman, he could be another 40 home run guy. But again, this is not a lack of opportunity with this guy. And I think they need a different chemistry at this point in time. They need different voices. They need different people doing different things. And so again, I think I said last night that I think that Ivan Herrera should stay. I think Brendan Donovan should stay. Mason Wynn is obviously a big piece of your future. And beyond that, Contreras is staying because he doesn't want to go. Arenado's going to stay because no one wants him. And, I just don't see the Cardinals eating a huge, that size contract at this point in time. So, fill in the pieces, use these guys for trade bait and see if you can find other guys in their arbitration cycle that other teams don't want to pay and rebuild your group that way. Because again, I'm just tired of the same old guys doing the same old things. So
I think that's where we will disagree. And I think as I look at it, Gorman, I feel like is doing a lot to earn a spot in next year's starting 9. Let's say, I think that he is doing enough. This isn't a world without Nolan Arenado. I think Nolan Gorman has earned a spot in the starting lineup for next year. For Jordan Walker, I think I don't, as you said, there are a lot of these at bats that don't mean anything right now. When's the last time a coaching staff, comes out in public and says what they said about him yesterday, the way they said it, where that's a huge wake up call to him. But do you give him the month of September in a losing season to make those adjustments? Or is that just kind of kicking the ass for next year and say, you know what, we better be seeing videos of you in November and December in the cages, and you better move your ass down to Jupiter and just start hitting there all winter long, and we'll assess it from there. And that's another thing too, by the way, that as I say it out loud, I don't know. That's another tricky thing that this organization is going to have to deal with this offseason is players going down to Jupiter and working out. I know Nolan Arenado was down there doing stuff, that facility right now is under huge renovations to where if you talk to people within the organization, they aren't really sure what is even going to be allowed to be done there in the winter as far as players working out there, as far as spring training stuff, in a terrible, flux of this organization, the way it's going right now with all these changes. Now you have players without, a home.
Hard to develop, right? We talk about
Right.
drafting, developing. Hard to develop when they have nowhere to develop.
Yeah. So it's that's another huge question mark that they have. And Samuel Howard says, go play in the Arizona Fall League. I'd love to see that.
Send them all over there.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. That is
hopefully,
Joe Rogers.
Hopefully JJ Weatherholt's in that. Yeah, you put a few guys in that Arizona Fall League, and we get to see some of these guys play.
We went 21 minutes and didn't mention JJ Weatherholt, so we'll get to him in just a bit. Card Central Postgame is brought to you in part by the Legal Buddy app. Life happens fast. 1 minute you're driving home, the next flashing lights in the rear view. Hopefully that wasn't you tonight, Joe, as you were speeding to get to the show. When trouble knocks, answer with confidence. With the Legal Buddy app, you can connect to a local attorney in seconds, whether it's a DWI, car accident, criminal charge, or traffic ticket. Download the Legal Buddy app today at legalbuddyapp.com. Register and use code LEGAL, that's LEGAL, to enter for a chance to win a $250 Amazon gift card. Always on your side. That is the Legal Buddy app. So, Joe,
we'll be hanging out with the Legal Buddy guys on Saturday in Columbia
that?
My House Bar and Grill. I feel like I have to say, I don't know, because I was saying earlier today, I was talking to Howard Richards, and I was telling him, hey, we're doing the pregame show from My House, and he had this confused look on his face. and when I told him the address, he goes, that's a place here in Columbia. I said, yes, it's the old Bengals in Columbia. And I was like, me of all people shouldn't be telling people where things are in Columbia, Missouri, but yet I'm telling the color analyst.
I think Howard was wondering how he was going to get from the booth to your house in Illinois in time for the postgame show this coming Saturday. So, yeah, and that will quick promo for the Mizzou Central postgame show, which will happen right after Mizzou rolls past Kansas, and that will be yours truly, along with Howard Richards, Vic Faust, and a whole cast of characters. So back to the Cardinals, who win tonight 5-1 over the Athletics, as we have pointed up on our graphic right there, improving to 1 game below 500. And as Joe has pointed out, this team is destined for the playoffs at 5.5 games out of the wild card right now. So, yeah,
1% chance for that. I am done with the scoreboard watching. I'm done with all of that right now. I am waiting for Baseball Reference to update their standings just so I can see.
You can see like 1.9%.
Yeah, to see how much it raised.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle Leahy with a couple of good innings tonight. Ran into a little bit of trouble. Again, Nick Kurtz is otherworldly with a north of 1,000 OPS this point in time. He got him on an opposite field home run, and then
by the way, if you have the ability to, and I'm saying this to not only you but everybody out there watching, listening to it, go find the radio call on KMOX before Kurtz hit that home run, because it's Ricky Horton and Mike Claiborne were on the call for the game today, and they were talking about, in that moment, not going to the bullpen and why you're letting him, why that's happening. And Claib says, when he goes, really, when you look at it, he goes, Kurtz could hit this ball to the arch, and it's still a 2-run lead. There's the pitch, and
into the arch. I mean, and honestly, if you watch that, I mean, Nick Kurtz, this guy, he's absurd. I mean, like, it was a half swing, hits it opposite field, and the guy just, the bat to ball. I mean, this is. You don't want to get too crazy about somebody this early into their career, but I mean, there is literally nothing not to like about the way Nick Kurtz hits. I mean, he is a center of the order guy for the next 10 years. If the Las Vegas A's decide to spend some money and invest in a guy, you see the Orioles giving Samuel Basallo an 8-year contract after 2 weeks in the bigs. I mean, Nick Kurtz is the kind of guy that I would feel, and I hate giving contracts to guys who haven't done much, but I struggle to see where this guy has very many holes in the swing. And, to the point about Jordan Walker and his lack of adjustments and his lack of preparation, Nick Kurtz is never off balance when he's hitting. And part of that is just the fact that he's a tremendously talented guy, but I mean, you can tell this guy prepares and he is ready, and he was ready for Kyle Leahy, who has been really, really good of late. And so, again, I mean, tip your cap. It's funny because I've had a lot of thoughts about the Oakland A's. This is the 7th time I've said Oakland A's. We were talking about this, Ethan and I, all night last night, and it was just like, how many times are we going to say it? And I can't not. I've been a baseball fan for 47 years, and they've been the Oakland A's the entire time. We'll get past it at some point in time, but you look at that lineup, and that is a really good young lineup, and that team is still 15 games below 500. They've had some really good moments with their pitching this year as well. It sort of leads me to my entire point about the Cardinals, in that this concept of full rebuilds and runway and young players all over the place, it just has never been proven to be a winner in baseball. And I think that people will say, well, give them 3 years of tanking and let them get some more high draft picks and more JJ Weatherholt caliber players. And, it's just such a dangerous game because, again, players are on 6-year cycles with arbitration, right? More or less 4 years, because you have to start making real decisions on these guys from a financial standpoint. And, I feel like the Cardinals need to enter the transfer portal instead of trying to draft and develop it. Go find guys who are near the end of their arbitration cycles with other teams, and let's go find the next Scott Rowlands. Let's go find the next Jim Edmonds. Let's go find the next Matt Hollidays and exploit other teams' issues on this. And so again, I just think that the A's are a really good example of a team that has so much young talent. It's oozing out of the gills. And they still are struggling to win games because you do need a different balance. You need veterans. You need guys who offer different stuff, in a lineup. And I think the A's are maybe a cautionary tale to every Cardinal fan who sits there and says, let's blow this whole thing up. Because again, you can end up with what the A's have right now, which is an enviable stash of good young players who will probably get better as time goes on. But the sad part is let's say it takes them 2 or 3 years to gel. And then a lot of these pieces will be getting too close to free agency for a team like the A's to keep. And I just think you rely on being bad to bring you talent. And I just think it's a cycle that ends up sort of being, self-fulfilling, and it just keeps end up being bad because you're like the Pirates, who every time they hit a home run on a guy, well, they realize after a couple of years, we're not close enough to really keep this guy. So let's try to flip him and get something good while he's still got 3 years of team control. Paul Skeens is getting traded sooner than later, and I just don't want the Cardinals to ever end up like that. If your mind is not on winning, Joe, like all the time, I think you fall into this black hole of losing.
You can't tank anymore. It's not possible with the way the draft works now. So any thought of doing that it just isn't happening. And I've said this time and time again, and I probably sound like a broken record to some people with this, but Cardinal fans, Cardinal Nation, the best fans in baseball, they can't stomach a 90-loss season. You think they're going to put up with a 100-loss season?
Yeah.
Not a chance in hell of that happening. And back to your point on Kurtz, as you watch him and you just see how big of an MFer he is, 6'5", 240, 22-year-old kid that I don't think has put on major league weight and muscle yet. I mean, he's going to end up being like I guess a Pete Alonso type, or maybe a left-handed Pete Alonso.
I mean, I don't think Pete Alonso has his bat to ball. I mean, I think Nick Kurtz is this is going to sound kind of insane, but the way he swings the bat reminds me of a left-handed Miguel Cabrera. He is just the complete package. I don't see Nick Kurtz being a huge strikeout guy. I think Nick Kurtz is going to float around 300 batting average. He's got a good eye. He's probably going to be a north of 400 on base percentage guy.
Yep. 309 batting right now in his rookie season, 403 on base percentage, and OPS over 1,000.
Yeah.
With an OPS plus of 179. It's been really impressive. And you said that we'll probably mention JJ Weatherholt here in the back half of the show. Again, Kurtz was drafted 4th overall.
Yep.
Jack Caglione was drafted 6th overall. Christian Moore, who's playing for the Angels right now, drafted 8th overall. JJ Weatherholt, 7th overall.
Yeah. And you know what? And again, we can have the JJ Weatherholt conversation all day, every day, because he's exciting. There's no two ways about it. But, what I mentioned yesterday, my fear of JJ Weatherholt is that he comes up and is expected to be a centerpiece in this lineup. And I think JJ Weatherholt can be the kind of guy, I think he's got a huge upside. I just don't know that he is what you base your entire lineup around. And if he comes up and he doesn't perform to where he's 30 plus home run guy, 300 average guy, middle of the order building block, what does that do to him? Is he put in a spot where, again, we had this discussion yesterday. The teams that develop guys well are the ones that bring them up when they don't expect much out of them. It happens with the Dodgers. It happens with the Braves. All these teams. You cannot bring up JJ Weatherholt, I think, until the support system's better. And that's what I want to see this team do, which is why nothing will happen at the end of this year.
It's I think, we're already a couple days into September, and there's not even mentions of that happening. So I would agree with that, but I do think that not calling him up is going to continue to be a mistake, because the way that they brought up Mason Wynn when they did, and the way that they acclimated him to Major League play, I think is the same that they need to do with.
But don't you think, Joe, that the expectation level is really different between Mason Wynn and JJ Weatherholt? Mason Wynn was a guy who did shoot through the system pretty well. Again, a high school player who was kind of on the same track as Jordan Walker. But I think that, even when Mason Wynn was drafted, right? Remember, he was a two-way guy, through 97. And the one rub on Mason Wynn was like, they don't know if the bat's developed. Right. And so when Mason Wynn came up and hit sub 200, that wasn't a surprise to anybody, and I will effuse praise of Mason Wynn, because that guy, I've made the comparison to Yadier Molina a lot. Obviously, they are literally the complete opposite of players, but Yadier Molina came up with a great glove and no bat and worked his way into an above average major league hitter, which is what Mason Wynn is doing as well. And I don't really know where his ceiling ends up being, but I don't think Mason Wynn ends up being a 25 home run guy at any point in his career. But I think he just has good, effective at bats, and he plays obviously darn near platinum glove caliber shortstop. So, again, with JJ Weatherholt, when he comes up, I think people will expect him to mash from day one. And, again, maybe there's value in him getting the taste of the bigs, I think, but I also will sit there and say that I would rather JJ Weatherholt come up and be able to hit in the 8-hole and be able to move in and out of the lineup as you see fit, because there's better pieces around, and let him sort of thrive and earn and work his way up. So, that's my 2 cents on it. And, again, like I said, I get your point, and I get that the seasoning is probably good because it was great for Mason Wynn. But I just worry the expectation level will be different with the fan base.
That's how I look at it, is the Mason Wynn comparison, and give him a chance to see a couple major league arms before you head down, because
step up.
Yeah. Right now, I guess the plan would be you're going to put him in the lineup. He's going to be a top 3 hitter in the lineup in spring, because you want him to see those starting pitchers. But again, those guys are also going to be working on stuff. You see him now against elite bullpen arms. You bring them up now to face starters who you're gonna see twice, and let them carve you up and have your way with you. And as you get older, you learn from that. And I think that's what they need to do in this final month.
He is Joe Roderick. I'm Chris Pelican. This is the Card Central Postgame, and sponsored by DraftKings. The crown is yours. And Missouri, get ready, because the wait is almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming soon to the Show Me State, and you can sign up today. New Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when we launch on December 1st. Download now and place a $5 bet when we go live. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when we officially go live in Missouri, you will be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. Safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live December 1st. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions do apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. I didn't say that as fast as normally those things go.
No, yeah. Bo Pribula, by the way, minus 120 anytime TD score this Saturday against Kansas.
Ooh. That feels like that's easy money.
Marquise Johnson plus 220.
Plus 220. Yeah, I mean, depends if KU wants to play their safeties up.
Yeah.
At your own risk right there.
I got to have these conversations with you now before we get to Columbia, and I can't do anything about it.
Good point. It's a good point. Well, Joe, we have got we're talking about gambling right now, but I guess what? This is from the programming department here at STL Sports Central, because the domesticated gamblers, they will be live on STL Sports Central YouTube channel shortly after we sign off. So stick around. They will be talking betting on the entire NFL Week 1 slate, along with giving picks for Mizzou, Kansas, and Illinois Duke. They'll also preview Cards and Giants this weekend and St. Louis City SC versus FC Dallas on Saturday. So hang around for our friends, the domesticated gamblers. Joe, any closing thoughts from a Cardinals series win against the Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas Athletics and Nick Kurtz, their behemoth first baseman? But Cards win 5-1. They pulled within a game of 500, 5.5 of the wild card. Your thoughts as they take tomorrow off before the San Francisco Giants come to town?
Wins are wins right now. It's not going to get me to 87 on the season, which was my magic number, but wins are wins.
Yeah, definitely don't believe the 87's hitting, my friend, and I don't really know who you talked to before you placed that bet. So
I teased it up. I got good odds on it.
Oh boy. All right. Good enough. Good enough. Well, Joe, fun as always, my friend.
Absolutely. Same to you.
Yep, we'll do it again real soon. He is Joe Roderick. I'm Chris Pelican. This has been the Card Central Postgame Show, sponsored by DraftKings. Again, Cards off tomorrow. We'll be back at it on Friday when they welcome the Giants to town. We'll see you then.